Hello, welcome. This is Debbie with Light Up Your Worth, and I am so excited today. I know I say that at the beginning of every podcast because I am. I'm generally so full of love with being able to bring on my friends to join you, and so that you can learn more about them and their journey and how we've all connected along the way with our spiritual journey. And so, my friend Patricia Elizabeth is just so delightful. She is so full of I always tell her this too. Every time I talk to her, see her name, I see a dolphin. And I see this dolphin energy that is just so graceful and kind and loving and it just wraps around you. And so as I um, had connected with Patricia through one of our mutual spiritual friends. We've connected through the years, and when I thought of launching my podcast, she came top on the list of wanting to have you meet her and to experience her wonderful energy and for her to share her journey. So, without further ado, Patricia,
Hey,
welcome.
thank you, Debbie. Thank you for having me on. I know we're going to have fun because we always have fun when we're talking.
It is. It's so wonderful. And I know I start out always by telling you too, right? Like every time we've done something, I always see these dolphins floating around. And right now I have dolphins all around me. And they're just like playful. And the reason, just so that everybody knows, is that you are a nomadic Canadian living in Mexico and you swim in the ocean every day. And before I knew this about that part of you, I was still seeing these dolphins. And so it's just so, I just think it's this beautiful thing, right? That whether you were planning on being around the dolphins before I saw them or it happened afterwards, I don't know. And I don't think it matters, right? It's just that every time I see you, I see of dolphins. And so I'm just so excited that you're here from Mexico. Um,
Yeah.
and so I um, as I stumble upon my words here because of the excitement. So I'm been running all this energy knowing that we're talking. And so I wanted to hear about your journey because as you are aware, like Light Up Your Worth is about people who are learning more about spirituality or they're new to it, maybe they've dabbled, maybe they just stumbled upon us and they're not sure of all of the different healing modalities that are out there and how uh, those of us are further ahead on our journeys, how we're connecting, and where did it all begin for us? What had us go seeking to learn or to heal? And so I would love for you to share about how you became who you are now. Like, and how, where did all that begin, and how did it? What sparked that?
I love to share. I'll try to keep it not too long because I could probably talk for hours. My journey has been that long. I've gone through a whole lot. So, growing up as a child, I always knew I was spiritually gifted. But sadly, that got suppressed out of me because I learned early on, sadly, and I know quite a few of you can probably relate, is if in order for me to be loved and accepted unconditionally, I had to hide that side of me. I had to hide my spiritual gifts. So that allowed that what happened is I got totally disconnected. And growing up, I was bullied as a child. I had eating disorders for about probably a 12, 13-year periods. I would numb myself with alcohol and drugs because once again, I was disconnected out of everything, like, because I had learned about I couldn't be me and be loved and accepted. And who doesn't want to be loved and accepted? I think we all, it's a basic need that we have. In 2004, I was diagnosed with a major clinical depression. Before that, I did several depressions, but this was a huge one. And I remember sitting on my living room floor. I was living in a basement apartment. I think it was cold outside. Looking in the mirror, being like, who am I and how did I get here? As a child, I always knew I was meant to have a great impact. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but yet I went to the corporate route because for my mother, that was the safe thing to do. You go to corporate, you don't start your own business. Even though her father had a very successful business and he was financially, but you went to corporate. And I just remember sitting there being like, okay, how did I get to here? And I'm like, okay, I have decisions to make. I can't keep doing this. Depression runs in on one side of the family, and I've seen some of them saying it stuck in that energy. And I'm like, okay, no. And I'm like, okay, I have a few options. I can either do whatever it takes, discover who I am, and get out of and become back to me, however long that journey is, or I can stay here. And I'm like, well, if I stay here, I don't want to stay stuck here. But if I'm going to just stay here, I might as well just end my life. Because I'm like, I'm not going to, and I kept picturing one of my family members. I'm not going to go into details because, I don't want to, I know I'll upset people. And then I was like, you know what? No, I knew that back then I meant for more. So I decided, I started going to therapy. I started doing a whole bunch of things. And then I remember being like, okay, what is it that I want? It's like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to go that. So I grew up in a small town on the east coast of Canada in the province of New Brunswick. But I remember for years, I wanted to move to Montreal. I wanted to go in the big city. I also grew up in a political family, so I wasn't known as Patricia. I was known as my dad's daughter or my grandfather's daughter or so-and-so's niece or cousin. I was shy and introvert, so that didn't help. So I remember thinking, no, I'm going to move to Montreal. But first, I went through the whole depression and got myself out of it because it's not a good time to make a decision move when you're in the middle of a big depression. I don't think it is. And then my grandfather was dying, so I stayed home because I also knew deep down, I've always been intuitive, but I knew deep down if I went to Montreal when he passed away, I wouldn't have been able to come back. And sure enough, he passed away not long after. And then, so I moved there. And I remember in Montreal, I was like, okay, I'm meant for more. Who am I? So I started to discover. But I wanted to become a massage therapist. And I wanted to do that for a long time, but then in Quebec, it's easier to become a massage therapist. I don't like studying certain things like the biology and all of that, but massage therapy, you have to study it, right? So I became a massage therapist, and from there, I had one of my colleagues who introduced me to Reiki. And I went for a Reiki session, and it's funny, I wasn't open for Reiki, but then I went on to become a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master. So there was a lot of resistance, and I think it's also because I knew it was going to help transform my life and start to shift me in a direction that I knew deep down I had to go. So for years, I taught Reiki. I started slowly, to discover who I was. I started to become Patricia. And in Montreal was fun because nobody knew who my family was. I was known as Patricia. For the first time in my whole life, I was just simply Patricia. I wasn't like Patricia's, so-and-so's daughter or whatever. And that helped me a lot to be able to step more. Then I started to discover different healing modalities. I started to dabble into different things. And then I started to really just step fully into my power. Then I moved to Toronto. And I remember up until that point, I would never take action. I was all talk, no action. I learned a lot of stuff, but then Toronto allowed me to really to step in and start to take action. That's when I started my first business. I used to be a manifesting coach. And once again, it started to allow, and it also allowed me to connect with a lot of spiritual people. Because once again, the more courses I took, the more, that's how we connect. We took a certification together, and then from there, everything evolved, and I met so many beautiful people. But it was just going through the journey. I went through ups, I went through downs. I remember in 2015, I started to come out of the spiritual closet, and then certain people didn't want me to, so I hit back again. 2017, everything came crashing down. I was making close to $60,000 US. All of a sudden, it came crashing down almost overnight. Now, looking back, I knew it was going to happen because I was meant to step fully into this realm, but I was resisting it. And then eventually, the universe was like, no, we're not giving you a choice. You're going for it. And then from there, in 2000, I learned Sacred Soul Alignment because I know that's how we met. And then from there, I started to step. July 2017, I came out fully out of the spiritual closet. I haven't looked back. I know there's people who were not they were afraid, right? They were trying to hold me back, but then I was like, no, And this is just who I am. It allowed me to be liberated. It allowed me to just step fully, slowly into my own power. And from there, like, I evolved, I fell down, I got back up. I mean, it's a journey, but once again, I think looking back is the best gift I did for myself, was to really go into this beautiful journey, because now I have my own healing modalities. I certify practitioners, but I always, for the longest time, would say I want to travel the world, get paid. And then when in September of 2018, I had given notice to where I was staying. Nobody in Toronto wanted to rent to me. I was too white. I was too Canadian. And I'm like, I'm in Canada. Like, this doesn't make sense. And my guys were like, no, you're going to start to travel. And I'm like, what? Like, now? They're like, no more saying. You're just going to start to travel. Like, where you're becoming a digital nomad. I'm like, okay. And then from there, I mean, I lived in Miami. I lived in BC. I lived twice in Mexico. And I haven't really looked back. And being in Mexico, it allowed me to really to tap into these magical energies. I've always had a magical side, but to really tap more into it and to be able to embrace it, and to step fully once again. So, like I said, it's been a journey, and I could probably go on, but I'm trying to keep it like abbreviated, because I know we have limited time. But once again, looking back, is the best gift that I did, was to allow myself to go through the journey, to really step fully into that whole spiritual side. And a lot of times we think you can be spiritual and have nothing else, but in fact, you can have it all. And part of us, we have a spiritual being. So that's part of the side that we also have to nurture, to be able to like put it all together. And once again, if I was able to be where I am today, so can you, because I was the girl that would, in school presentations, I would fail, or I'd have to do the presentation 2 or 3 times just to get a passing mark. And now, like, you can't shut me up. So once again, if I can get to where I am today to live my dream life, so can you. I'm not any special. I'm not smarter. It's just I didn't give up. I kept going at it. I kept, persevering and surrounding myself with the right people at some point as well, because when you have the right people, like-minded people, that also helps you to be able to do that. Like I said, I could continue going on and on and on, because this is just something I'm very passionate about, because once again, you can do it. Like, if you're sitting there, well, yeah, but it's not, just start moving forward, start discovering who you are, start discovering what, like, the little things. It's worth it. It's the best gift you can give yourself, is to just start to discover who you are and step fully as you. And it's a process, once again, but it's worth it.
You know what I find so beautiful is, first, I want to acknowledge you for when you were at that lowest point, right? Of acknowledging that, no, I'm going to step forward and I'm going to go figure this out. That takes a lot of courage, lots of courage, to go, I'm just going to go forth into what I don't know what I don't know. And just acknowledge that total bravery that you had inside of yourself, reconnecting to parts that had already been shut off, about, I know that I'm supposed to be out there. I know I'm supposed to help people. I know that I have this greatness that needs to burst through. And the journey to get there, and the falling down and the getting up, and what we learn about ourselves. Like, it's not this perfect, yellow brick road of, here, just go this lovely way, and taking all of those experiences into who you are now. And what I find so beautiful is that as we start connecting to our like-minded people, that we have these open conversations about that we're not perfect, we're normal people. We're out there, you're out swimming in the ocean every day with those dolphins that are calling you, right? Play, right? I see dolphins as playful and giving and loving, right? I mean, we know what dolphins do with people, but I just really want to acknowledge that you kept going, right? You kept growing, and as you're growing, you're bringing people along with you. You're bringing these peeps, and the freedom that you felt Tell me about the freedom when you first started to connect with more of the like-minded people, right? Like we can sit here for hours and talk, and we're
Yes.
connected, and we're not hiding any parts of ourselves, right? We're
Yep.
like, no, these are real conversations about, like, I can tell you that my house is full of dolphins right now, right? And you're like, yeah, of course. Well, I'm gonna go swim with the dolphins, and I'll ask them about that later, right? Like, is there something I'm supposed to know about the dolphins, right? Like, why do they keep coming to me? And you don't look at me like, oh, okay, right? And all of the when your modality was downloaded to you, right? Like, we can have these conversations, and we're just free to be that. We don't have this burden, or I think it's exhausting not being who we truly are to meant to be. But what does that mean to you, Patricia, about, what feelings did you start to have about yourself or let go of when you started to connect with people who were like-minded?
Well, Well, the first thing was when you're able to just be accepted for you, you don't need to filter. You don't need to be, okay, well, I can't open up about this to this person, or can I talk about this? It becomes liberated. As well as you stop caring. I found for me, I stopped caring what other people would tell me I needed to do. If I would have listened to everybody who told me, you know, you shouldn't be doing healing work, you shouldn't be stepping into this, you shouldn't become a digital nomad, um, I honestly would not be alive right now. I would have committed suicide. That I do know, because I had suicidal thoughts and all of that. But it also allowed me to connect with the most magical and beautiful people. I mean, I have practitioners from all around the world. I have awesome friends from around the world. I got to connect with so many beautiful people. It's just been it's just been magical. And when you can just be yourself, you're free. You don't have to stop and think like, okay, can I say this? Can I say that? Okay, this person, I have to say this to them, but I can't say this. But this person, I can say this, but I can't say that. Like, you don't have to stop and think, okay, what can I tell this person? What can I think? Because that's heavy energy. You're really going to get heavy. And as well as when you're able to just show up as you, it's light, it's fun. Once again, you're going to connect with the most amazing people. If you're starting out this journey, just know and trust whatever happens. The more you step fully into your power, the more you become you fully and you show up fully as you, the more magical people you're going to be able to attract, the magical opportunities. You're going to be happier, you're going to be freer. Everything is going to become possible for you once again. Because for the longest time, I used to do magic on and off, but I would have to hide that side. Like, now I'm just like, well, here, I did this, the candle magic, sometimes on Instagram, whatever. I don't need to hide that part. Once again, the right people will be there for you, and the wrong people will not. But once again, you're going to attract the most amazing people. You're going to be free. It's more fun. Does that mean we don't go through challenges? No, I go through the same amount of challenges. First, I probably go through more challenges, but it's more fun because I know it's a journey. It's liberating. And plus, when you're able to be you, you can have the impact that you're meant to have. Like, I've always knew I was going to have a huge impact. I know I'm meant to impact 100 million people in this lifetime. And the more I say it, it's like, okay, I'm really stepping in. But once again, when you have the right people, when you're able to be you, the right people shows up, the right opportunity shows up. And it seems like you're in the flow of things, and you're happier. And once again, even when you're struggling, you're not going to struggle as much, because now it's just because it's just of the energy you're in. You're able to just be you. And I tell people, you need to just start being you. Start with where you are gradually. But when you're I've also learned the hard way. When I tried to be the perfect daughter, the perfect sister, the perfect everybody, I was suicidal. I was numbing myself with alcohol and drugs. I don't do drugs. I haven't done drugs in several years. I may have one drink every once in a while. I don't need drugs or alcohol anymore to numb myself. I can just be me. And I've also realized that no matter who I am, the perfect Patricia or the real Patricia, I'm going to have the same amount of people who are going to like me or not. Some people actually love me better. They accepted me better. Some people, it took them time. But once again, when you can just be you, the right people shows up. You're going to have the most amazing relationships with the most amazing people. And it's the same amount of work. Actually, I find it takes less work for me now because I'm just me. I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. And once again, I used to be the perfect person. That's why I became anorexic and I almost died from that. And a whole bunch of different things. In corporate, being perfect is basically mandatory. An entrepreneur being perfect, no,
Yeah.
it's not. And like I say, I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm not perfect. If somebody calls me perfect, I'm like, what? You don't know me because you wouldn't say I'm perfect. I'm far from being perfect. But I'm okay with that because once again, I accept myself. The good, the flaws, and the in between. Because some things can be good, some things can be bad, depending on like what extreme we go to. But it's just liberating. It's fun. Once again, I get to connect with the most amazing people, like Debbie, and I mean, I could name quite a few. I could probably go on for quite a while, but it's liberating. Give yourself permission to start to be you. Never mind what anybody else tells you. Start by putting you first, because then you're gonna be energized. You're gonna be able to help more people because once again, you're just being you.
Yeah, when I've decided to step fully into my whole energy, right, and connect up and just go, okay, not only am I coming out and just claiming this part of myself, and I know I've mentioned this in other episodes, it's like it's almost on blast, right? It's like, okay, I'm coming out with a podcast and I'm sharing my friends, and because as we are both very much aware of, last year was this huge spiritual awakening, and there's all these individuals, all these souls who are looking to find us, who are looking for the people who are generally centered in who themselves, that we've accepted it. We had accepted that we would start our journeys before them so that as they awaken, we're here to help catch them, help them accept themselves, and then they're going to take it on even to a greater extent. Oh, I just got extreme goosebumps. Oh
Yeah,
my
me too.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Like extreme. And so, and I think, and I'm gonna highlight that, right? Like, because goosebumps, what does that mean when you're starting to awaken? You start having these goosebumps, you start having these conversations, and you get the goosebumps, right? Like, it is total validation. And I remember having goosebumps, you know, 35 years ago, before I was even aware, or as a small child. I remember having these goosebumps or these feelings in my stomach, right? About, oh, that person, there's not, I don't know what that is, but they just have this. I didn't even know the word vibe, right? I just remember feeling like they just feel icky as a small girl, and you don't understand what that is. Luckily for me, we had a neighbor across the street from us, and he was icky. He had this icky feeling to him. And I remember going to a slumber party over there at this house. And I don't remember my girlfriend's name or anything, but I remember the dad's name, and I'm not going to repeat it here. But we were there, and this grown man walked out butt naked. And I remember telling my mom, like, I packed up my stuff and I went home across the street, right? I was like, oh no, there's some icky stuff going on there, right? I didn't know what any of that was. I remember coming home, telling my parents, and I don't know what my dad did, but this man never came near me or my younger sisters again. And every time I would get this yucky feeling about older grown adults, right? I would tell my mom. I was fortunate that my mom would listen, right? We weren't around those people. This protective energy. My mom knew enough. I know now why my mom listened to us, but as a child, but it was that goosebumpy. It was that those feelings that you're coming, and I think when we're first waking and you're discovering things, you don't know that those goosebumps. That is like one of the first initial signs, and it has continued through my journey. The whole goosebumpy, the whole even like body reaction to stuff, like we're talking and I'm like, my nose is all pink, my cheeks are all flustered because I'm running so much energy talking to you, right? And so I just, was there other things that you noticed too along your journey, like the goosebumpy things, like these physical confirmations along the way, even when when you started to understand it, but then how it just continues to show up now, even in your journey. What have you experienced?
So for me, I would pick up on people's like bad energy. So I would get migraines, or I would have that pull. It was like, no, like get away from me. Like I just can't be around like certain people, um, or or I just knew, okay, you're really lower vibe. There's something bad about you. I just didn't know, because my main clair is claircognizance. I just knew, okay, and I remember a lot of, quite often, I always knew I was very intuitive. I had a really strong intuition. Nobody was able to take that away from me. And I remember at times be like, I should have listened to my intuition. Sometimes I could just feel it in my body. Or I would get these headaches. Like, remember this guy when I lived in Montreal would invite me to these networking events with like really like, powerful business people. And it was in old Montreal. So there was a lot of like lower energies a lot of times because stuff happened. I mean, we all know what like older buildings. And I remember quite often I would go in and I would leave right away. I'm like, I have a migraine. And then at one point I realized it's because I was picking up on everybody's like the lower vibes, either from the building itself, and sometimes it was from the actual people, or I would be like, no, I can't go. So I would get afraid all of a sudden. I'm like, why am I getting afraid? I actually know quite a few people are going to be there. Once again, I would just get like afraid. Something would tell me, nope, don't go there. And sometimes when I would have that feeling, don't go there, something would happen. Either somebody like got murdered. One time I was walking in Toronto and something was telling me, just no, go here, cross the street, don't look down that alleyway. And somebody was actually getting murdered when I was like going. So I just had that sense, nope, I need to avoid. But I mean, so if it's goosebumps for me is a validation, a big yes. When I get goosebumps, it's like, oh my God, yes. And I know when I get goosebumps, I don't even stop and question. It's a yes. Or my stomach sometimes. I had a lot of ulcers because I was holding on to a lot of my energies in like my stomach area. Once again, yeah. So I mean, a lot of times we are in this journey, we're not even aware, and the more we become aware of it, like now, I'm able to protect my energy. I don't take on other people's energy. And being in Mexico, I take on even less, because if people here, and this is also why probably I'm able to flourish a lot more than if I was back in Canada, because I was supposed to go back to Canada, but then stuff happened, or like, nope, just stay in Mexico. Okay, I'll just stay here. But I've learned to listen to my intuition. And then when I don't, everything falls apart. So, and it was like, why didn't I listen to my intuition? My friends were like, Patricia, you're the person with the best intuition. What do you mean you didn't listen to it? And I'm like, I don't know. Now looking back, it was like, I just listened. It's automatically, but it was a process that you have to go through once again. And I'm going to tell you, be brave, put yourself first. It's not easy, but it's the best gift you can give yourself. Going back, I would have done the journey. I keep saying I would have done the journey earlier. No, I wouldn't have, because I wasn't ready. But be bold, be brave, and it's rewarding. At the end of the tunnel, once you cross a certain path, it's the best gift you can give yourself, and it's the best gift you can give the whole, like the people around you, and even on the conscious level. Because once again, when you're able to just be you and you're embracing yourself 100%, you help make the world a better place, because you're going to shine your light. You're going to be able to have that vibration that you're helping people, making the world a better place without even noticing it half the time. Or even some of you may not even notice at all that you're making the world a better place. But when you're showing up fully as you, it's the best gift you can give people. And you're going to have the right people around you.
Isn't that so incredible? Because even on your journey, that quote of, you may not remember what people said, but you'll always remember how they made you feel.
Yep.
And I think as we step into it, is it Maya, I think, who says it, but as you go through this journey, what you're giving out, that energy of like, ooh, I want some more of this, right? Like, I don't know what this is, but I want to be around you. And it's just this loving energy that starts to radiate from us, from our hearts, of this love. And as more and more people waking up, and I can, like right now what I'm seeing is this visual of like the earth and all these little like lights coming on, right? Like, oh, there went another one, something's happening. And like what a difference it's going to make as we move into this next, period of history that we've just gone through. And it's just so beautiful. So I want to know more about when you started to come into your modality. Tell us what is that? Tell us more about what that is and how. Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
So I've always knew I had my own modality. So my first modality was Reiki. The only time I ever did pure Reiki is when I was teaching it. Because you kind of have no choice, right? You're teaching, you're terrifying people. But I would encourage people though, like, okay, I'm teaching you this right now, but go with what feels good for you. Like that was something, some people were like, no, I got to do. I'm like, no, what feels good for you? Like, no, I'm going to teach you the proper way. But then after that, you use your intuition. And then I remember in 2015, I started coming out of the spiritual closet because I had more modalities, but then I hid. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start to add the healing component to my coaching and the publishing and all of that. I was telling my guides, okay, let's compromise. I will add it. And my guys were like, okay, yeah, we'll let you for now. And then 2017, they were like, no, it's got to come crashing. And in 2017, when I started taking the course, but when I started to spiritually, I'm like, no, I'm out of the spiritual closet. I'm a spiritual teacher, mentor, multidimensional healer, psychic, whatever. Like, I started to really embrace it fully, and I didn't care if you approved me or not. My own modality started to come in. So at first, I was getting some energies coming in. I called mine activations because my mentor calls her alignments, and I didn't want to copy my mentor. That's very important for me to just make it my own. So I called mine activations, and the activations were just starting to come in slowly. And I remember taking her advanced class, and all of a sudden, poof, my first modality, integrated soul activation, officially was birthed. Now, it was a process since like October of 2017. And then in May, I think it was May or June 2018, it really came out. And from there, I really started to transition. So my work, a lot of it is I help people a lot with their money blocks. Now, I do a lot of manifesting. I do magic work. Also spiritual gifts, and it was quite the journey. And then from there, September of that year, I certified my first integrated soul activation practitioner. It was a better round. I remember like putting the stuff together, and she's like, I want to be your first practitioner. I'm like, but I'm not ready. And she kept saying, I want to be your first. I ended up having two. One ended up dropping out. The one that was like, you need to put this together. And I'm like, okay, let me put it together. And then the other one finished. Like, I had several layers. And even the people, when I start to do my own work, they were like, wow, like it's more powerful because, when you're stepping fully once again and then evolve. Then when I was in Miami in May of 2018, I got the original energies for the ISA Money Light Codes. And then they were like, stay tuned. What do you mean stay tuned? Like, you're giving me something powerful. What do you mean stay tuned? Well, my guides knew that when I went back to Canada after Miami in March, I was going to slide into another depression, and that lasted the whole year. So then they started to give it to me. So sometimes, and then when I was ready to do something with it, then they're like, okay, now we're giving you the remaining downloads. And once again, so the ISA Money Light Codes really go and reprogram like on DNA, like all of the past lives and everything, because there's many layers inside of that. I'm not going to go too much in details because this is not a course on like on all of that. But not only does it help you to release something, to dissolve something, but it also infuses an energy. Because a lot of times what I find is people will just clear. And clearing is important. But then if that's all you're doing is clearing, at some point you're not going to really see results, because you need to, like, you're creating all this space. You need to like create and activate and install new like higher vibration energies. And then I was just like, okay, so then I start to certify practitioners. I think I have like 50 or 60 I have like 60 or 70 ISA Money Light Codes practitioners. And then now being in Mexico, they gave me ISA Light Codes. So with me, it's all interconnected. I work a lot with like money stuff. I do like abundance stuff. I have a financial background, though I don't give people financial. I haven't been licensed since 2011. I've also made a lot of money mistakes, which I think allows me to be able to help people, because once again, I do the manifesting, the magic. I've been told I have a very unique spin. I'm really like, and that to me was important, was to just be Patricia, not try to copy certain people who were my mentors who were well known out there, because once again, it was like, how do I make it my own? Once again, it takes practice. You got to do this work. It's by doing. A lot of us, we think we have to have it all figured out for everything to happen. Here's the thing. You're going to figure out as you do. And if you wait for everything to be figured out, you're just going to sit there until you die. You're not going to do anything. Every time I have everything figured out, I shift back again, or I like something happens, or I learn something new, and it's like, wait a minute, now I need to implement this because I'm not the same person I was. So don't wait until everything's perfect. So some of you, that's what you're waiting for before you start to really go into this journey, is for everything to be perfect. Incorporate perfect serves you. Incorporate, I was an exceed when it came down, like in the financial world, you could make a whole lot of mistakes, because mistakes in the financial world and transaction can cost a lot of money. I was an exceed. That's how this type of personality I was. That's why I did well in corporate. As an entrepreneur, that was a struggle, trying to go like, wait a minute, perfection doesn't serve you being an entrepreneur. Being a spiritual teacher, being perfect doesn't serve you. And I've had people tell me at times, you need to be more perfect. You can't share people your journey. What do you mean? Like, I'm human. Like, I'm not going to be this perfect person. Been there, done it. It caused me to have a major clinical depression once again. So it's just like, start doing, start like discovering, learning different things. Because some things for some people will work, some things won't. The only way you're going to know is by actually doing and experimenting. To bring out your inner child. Children, normally we're curious. We want to learn stuff. We want to know things. We want to discover things. Start bringing that inner child out back again. Let your inner child guide you through this journey of discovering who you are and the spiritual awakening. Because the way COVID we had is a massive reset. It's an opportunity to come back to your source, to come back to who you always been. But for most of us, that was hidden. Or some of us, it was suppressed so deep, it's like it wants to come out. Just let it out, and it's worth it.
Yeah, let's play. Let's play. I love how you highlighted, like, you try this and this one resonates, and sometimes this doesn't resonate. And like so much of my own journey too has been, like, I participated in one of your workshops recently, right? I downloaded my many codes for this year. I received my many codes for this year. And I focus on abundance, right? And we're like in the same realm, but yet we're not in the same realm, right? Like, you have a different spin, I have a different spin. There's going to be somebody else who has like some other different energy that they like pull it all together. I think of all of our modalities almost like a crock pot, right? Like, mine, I put in potatoes and carrots, and yours had, green onions and celery and chicken, right? And so they're all different. They all taste a little different. And I go play with everybody's, like, oh, what do you have in your recipe? Oh, what do you have in your recipe? And absorb everything that I need from all of it. And it all works. It's I just think it's one of the most beautiful things about the work that we do, is being able to blend and take in, and even as we continue this journey over and over, and look at all the practitioners that you have, that of all of the work that you've done, and yet you're going to still go continually expand and grow your own self. And I don't know if sometimes people think, well, I've been working on myself forever. Well, no, it's part of this process.
Well, it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime work. If you have somebody who does healing work, or a spiritual teacher or a coach, and they stop growing, run. I remember interviewing a spiritual teacher for my next teacher, and I'm like, so what do you do for for able to grow? And she's like, I don't need to do that. I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean you don't? Like, I have 50 certifications plus. I stopped counting at 50. Now, you don't need to necessarily have 50 certifications. I'm just programmed. I need to learn. I need to grow. Even my own modalities have expanded. They've upgraded big time. Because once again, you always want to keep growing and learning, and you can learn so much. Like, I am Patricia Elizabeth. You won't find anybody else like me. And like my dad would say, there was two Patricia Elizabeth, the world would not be in a good place, okay? Because it would be dangerous. Embrace your uniqueness. Same thing. Like Debbie and I, we do a lot of the same work. Some of my mentors, I do a lot of the same work. But once again, we're all unique. We have different energetic imprints. We have different experiences in this life, in past lives. We have a different spin. We've learned that we've had different modalities. I read a lot of books. I study a whole lot. I'm doing my PhD in metaphysical science, and I mean, like, we have different experience. Our corporate experience also plays a lot of it from here, because some things, looking back, I knew I had to go through in the corporate world because it helped me in my business. We go through everything because, once again, it's to help us to get to fulfill our purpose and our mission. I don't believe in competition. The only person I'm in competition with is Patricia. Like, I will celebrate other people, even some of my practitioners, as some of them start to now have their own modalities that's slowly starting to brew. Like, I'm excited for them to be able to bring out their own work, because that's when you really start to step in fully. Once again, we're not in competition. We're all unique. There's like 8+ billion people, I think, the last time I checked. I think there's enough people inside of here. There's no competition, first thing first. And it's time we start to play a lot more, especially as women. Once again, we're not in a competition. Like, it's time for us to really lock arms and, like, continue moving forward, instead of being like, well, no, you're doing this, I'm not going to talk to you. Sometimes we do need to take a step back from certain people. I've had one of my mentors, at times I have to take a step back, not because it's bad, but it's just because we're getting a lot of the same downloads, and this is allowing me to stay in my lane. And then when that's done, then we come back together. And that's something we had even talked about, because I'm like, she goes, yeah, because you have to stay in your lane. That's why sometimes, like, we kind of grow apart, but then we come back together. But there's no competition. Once again, there's more than enough people out there. And when you're able to truly be yourself, you're going to attract your soulmate clients. Now, I don't have any clients that I work with that I'm like, oh my God, I got to work with them. But when I wasn't fully myself, let me tell you, a lot of times I was sick a whole lot, because I was not working with the right people. And I would call in sick for, like, it's like I was in corporate, calling in sick because, but now that I'm myself, and I'm like, I'm 100% myself, my client, it's never been more fun. They're getting better results, actually, because I'm working with the right people. A lot of them have become good friends. When I'm in the same place as them, we hang out together. But once again, do the work. Be bold and be brave. You have it within you. Just give yourself permission, and never mind what anybody else tells you. And be careful who you share your part of your journey with, especially when you're starting to awaken and expand and all of that. Because some people are going to keep you stuck, not because they want to be mean. They just think it's safer for you to stay where you are. But really, you're meant for more. So start, find a few like-minded people. I mean, there's Facebook groups where you can find people that you can just, just be yourself, or just be you. Hang out with the people who accept you. And from there, you're going to start to grow and evolve. And next thing you know, people call me bold and brave, and I'm like, what? I don't see myself as that anymore, because it's just, it became part of who I am. But I gave myself permission to be bold and be brave, because I had to face a lot of things that I've done. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, as once again, as part of my journey. But just give yourself permission to do the work. And next thing you know, you're going to be like, wow, like, you'll be amazed sometimes, or it'll be so automatic for you to do certain things. Like, being bold and brave is like, what? Like, no, I'm not braver than anybody else. But a lot of people will tell me, yes, you are. And one of my friends goes, Patricia, you're so used, that's just your natural being now, that you don't think you're braver than anybody else. But start being brave, start being bold, start putting yourself first. You're meant for more. And if you're listening to this, you're meant for more. And if you don't have it all figured out, that's okay. Start by, learning who you are. What do you love to do? What are you, what lights you up? What is it you hate to do? What brings you a yucky feeling? Something gives you a yucky feeling, you pay close attention to that. A lot of times we just, what lights you up? That's important, what lights you up. But what makes you feel yucky? Because something makes you feel yucky, don't keep doing it, because you're just going to stay stuck in there. Bring out your inner child once again. Have fun. We're meant to here to have fun. We're not meant here to struggle. And abundance, for a lot of people, that's why they struggle, is because they're staying there. Start having fun, play. Right. And next thing you know, it's a journey. And if you play, when you hit rock bottom, it's going to be easier to come back up because you're in that playful energy. If you're going to just like struggle and focus on all of that, when you hit rock bottom, you're going to stay there a lot more. Your perspective helps a lot. I used to be the most negative and toxic person. And I know for some people that only know me in the last few years are like, what? I'm like, I used to be the most negative and toxic person. Once again, I did a lot of work. I heal a lot of stuff. And now, okay, I am sometimes negative and toxic. I mean, I'm human, but it's not often. But I am also aware when I'm in that space,
Hmm.
I will isolate well, now I'll go to the beach because I'm like 10 minutes walk from the beach. I'll go to the beach, I'll shift everything, and then I'll join back people. But once again, it's a journey. Give yourself permission. Put yourself first. Your future you will thank you for that.
Right? Like, I'm so glad that your future you made that decision back in 2004, right? To stay here and to go through and do the work. I'm so glad that the person who I was years ago continued to stay through the work, continue to grow and have fun, right? Like, are we not? You think you talk about doing stuff messy, right? Like, I'm doing this podcast, it's messy, right? It's definitely not perfect. Putting it out there on YouTube, it's definitely not perfect, right? But I'm doing it. I'm taking action, and you step forward and you just start taking action, and then you start being led to the different people that you're going to meet. Oh, this workshop sounds interesting. This one, yeah, not so much. So I go take that workshop. Like, what am I going to learn? Who am I going to meet? Is who I think of now, right? And there's nothing better than these conversations. I just think that they're so they're just so beautiful, like, and how we all got to where we are, right? We just didn't snap our fingers and twiddle our noses. Like, I wish, right? Like, it
I
wasn't
wish.
a wish, but
Yeah, I wish. But here's the thing: the most people, what they think is the most successful people, the people who have it all together. All they see a lot of people because a lot of times they only meet you once you have it all figured out. Especially as we grow to we expand and we have like our community starts to grow a whole lot. That's what people see. But the journey behind the scenes it's like all ups and down, and then you kind of go here, and the next thing you know, nope, you're going back here, and there's some things I kept going back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to do money stuff, no, I'm going to do this stuff, I'm going to go back to money stuff, I'm going to now it's like, let me just blend it all together. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that before? Because I wasn't ready to think of it. I wasn't ready. I had to go through that whole journey because it allowed me to figure things out once again. But the journey is not going to be like a straight line. And if it's a straight line, you're playing too small. You're staying too safe. It's going to be, but once again, it's worth it. Going back, I'm like, why didn't I think of it? And then my guys were like, because you had to go through the journey you had to go through. And the more you're meant to have a greater impact to more people, the more you're going to go through difficult stuff, the more your journey is going to be really like rock and roll. So for those of you who are like, I'm tired of going through all of this back again. Trust me, I go through that stuff. It's just now I handle it different. It's just how you're meant to have a greater impact. You just don't know it yet. But people, if you look at like people who are like the big people, they've gone through a whole bunch of journeys. You don't just go through like a little, life is a, and once again, if this is what your life looks like, you're playing too safe. You're not meant, I mean, don't go do like crazy, super crazy things. But once again, if you're going through big journeys, it's because you're meant to have a greater impact. And one of my mentors used to say, your mess is going to allow you to be able to help more people. That's what you're going to be able to help people with is your mistakes. Mistakes helps you to grow. Mistakes, I used to be a perfectionist. If I made a mistake, oh my God, I beat myself up and I have to be this perfect person. Now I make a mistake. Yes, I made a mistake. Because it means I'm actually taking action. I'm actually doing something. And that's why I'm successful as well. That's why I have a profitable business. That's why I am where I am today. Because I made a lot of mistakes. But I don't see them as mistakes. I see them as little learning curves. It's okay, I needed to make that mistake to figure out that's not what I want, or that's not how I need to do things. I don't remember who it was that used to say the more mistakes you make, the closer you are to success, the closer you are to the finishing line. Because once again, it's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be a roller coaster, but it's a beautiful journey. Looking back, once again, I would have done it back again in a heartbeat. And I've gone through a lot of like I fell down quite often, but I would do it back again because it got me to where I am today.
You know, one of the things that I think about when you look back is the Steve Jobs, famous thing about at the Stanford graduation commencement, where he says, looking back on his journey where he was connecting all the dots, right? Like, what if he hadn't not gotten into the class and hadn't learned calligraphy, right? Like, how different, how that all played into it, right? In the what he was able to accomplish. But I love that connecting the dots backwards. You don't know what seems like a detour or a questioning ends up becoming one of the greatest things. So I think for anybody listening who's going through some type of struggle is to just pause in it, and it may not feel great, but there's a lesson there, and there's a lesson that you need to be able to find. If not, it's going to keep repeating too. When we start seeing them as lessons and seeing what's part of this, and you know, Fail Forward by John Maxwell, right? It was a great book, and about that failure. You have to take action. You have to go sign up for that workshop. Go sit in on a drum circle, a sound healing, go do a first Reiki attunement, and just see what is brought to you. It's just magical. So what are you up to these days as far as it, like, how can people reach you, Patricia, if they're interested in learning more about the work that you're doing?
So the best place is to go on my website at thepatriciaelizabeth.com. And right now I'm getting ready to launch a money container. So on the website you'll be able to see like I'm doing like a money retreat and all that. The next little while my focus is to help people with their money stuff, because for a lot of people what I've noticed is they're on this spiritual awakening but they may not have the money. So like you need to start working on your money stuff. So thepatriciaelizabeth.com is the best place because there I have basically everything. All my social media is also connected on there, so that would be the best place where they can learn more. I also have a few free gifts on there that they can start to see, okay, I want to discover Patricia's work a little bit. So that's the best place where people can really learn more about me and connect with me.
Oh, that is wonderful. Highly encourage it. Of course, I've done her stuff, and it's powerful stuff. I've been able to manifest um, some good stuff into my life, and removing those, right? Clear it out. So, well, this has been just wonderful. I hope that everybody here has gleaned some of this knowledge of understanding Patricia's journey, and just how wonderful it is to be able to connect with people who talk your language, and who you can be authentically you. You're not holding things back. And so thank you so much for joining me, Patricia. And I will say goodbye here, and I wish everybody well. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.